What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. And something else. So listen. With all that's going on, the scripture that comes to mind at this particular time is 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. I'm going to read this out of Amplified. It says, "Do you not know that in a race, all runners run their very best to win, but only one receives the prize? Race or run your race in such a way that you may seize the prize and make it yours." Now, I said that because we are right in the thick of the NBA Eastern and Western Conference Finals, and it really looks bleak. I mean, dead in the water for two teams. One, it looks dead. Who looks dead in the water right now is the Los Angeles Lakers. The other team that looks dead in the water is the Boston Celtics. Now, concerning the East, I think Eric Spoelstra was a mad genius. And this is why. The Bucks wanted the number one seed because they knew if they got the number one seed, they would have the easiest path to the NBA Finals, because 2 and 3 was going to have to battle one another, and they wouldn't have to deal with them. They would deal with whoever is the winner of those two. Whatever one comes out less scathed is the one they would end up with. But Miami knew, and Eric Spoelstra knew, I can outcoach Coach Bud in my sleep. Because all I got to do is the same stuff I did in the bubble, and nothing's, because Bud ain't changed, and he lost to one person who did bring change and could make adjustments during the game. So Miami said, I'd rather lose and let Atlanta be 7 and let us take 8. We'll take our chances with Milwaukee. Did, beat Milwaukee, and now they're getting ready to go for a sweep on Boston because 1, Boston's tired. 2, you upset Jimmy Buckets, and he has taken this series personnel, and he is just giving it to Boston with absolutely reckless abandonment and no care for any children, wives, or men. He don't care. He wants a championship. And it looks like it's going to be just that, a Miami Eastern Conference champion. And I'm going to just be honest. They're up 3-1, 3-0, and I don't see Boston beating them 4 times in a row at all. At all. I don't know about you, but Will, what do you think? We're talking about the East. We'll get to the West. What do you think?
You know, it's not so fast. Not so fast. I mean, you do have to win 4 games. It's never been done before. 3 come back from 3-1, 3-0 deficit. They won 2 games in Boston, which is a heck of a feat, and it's looking really good for them now. But I just don't. I don't. You know, the fat lady is clearing her throat and making her way to the microphone, but she's not singing yet. So I'm not gonna say any of these things. I mean, in the West, the same thing. Denver is up 3-0. It looks bleak for the Lakers. It's never been done before, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. So I'm just going to watch it play out and see what happens. But Spoelstra is doing an outstanding job of positioning his chess pieces with a lot of men down. You know, he got a couple of very key pieces down, and he's still moving the chessboard around and being able to, you know, get things going for Miami. And as far as Los Angeles is concerned, we'll get to that later. They just don't look like they're gonna. It looks like a sweep to me for Los Angeles, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And then I know it's going to be disappointing to the NBA because they would much rather see Boston and LA in the finals. It probably mean bigger ratings and more commercial sales and so on and so forth for them. But it doesn't look like that is to be. And congratulations to both of those teams, Denver and Miami, for actually showing how teams and how you can have a team game and how you can have people who have roles and positions. And if they can play in those roles and the positions, you still can excel and be successful. So, this has been a very interesting NBA playoff series.
T. Mac.
I would agree. I think the door is probably closer to being shut on the LA versus Denver series than the Boston series. I mean, LA, I think they've done way more than what I'll say I expected them to do in this year's playoffs. I think LeBron, I would love for him to get his fifth. Doesn't look like his fifth championship. Doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. I think that his accomplishment is still noteworthy, given that he prevented Steph Curry and those nemesis Golden State Warriors from also getting Steph's fifth as well. So I think their season was made by stopping Golden State. And so he got a chance to taste the victory of beating them for the first time since his 1-3 down comeback, I think, in the 2016 championship. So that was great. But one of the things that really stood out to me was, as we know, Father Time is undefeated. LeBron James is looking, as Dylan Brooks from the Grizzlies said, he's looking like an old man, having to take a number of breaks, not being able to expend as much energy on both sides of the floor, offense and defense, taking plays off and looking pretty, geriatric, and I think that no matter how phenomenal he's been over a storied 20-year career, I think the end is near for him and his ability to carry a team and him to put a team on his shoulders. I think those days are long gone. And I don't know, now that he is at this point where he's obviously past his peak, it might be a quick deterioration, similar to when Michael Jordan came back and played for the Wizards. Despite the fact that he dropped a double nickel or 55 points against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, he looked like a shell of himself, the Jordan that we know and love. LeBron, I think, is fast-tracked to that particular stage as well. I know he's trying to stick around to be able to hang out with his son, Bronny James, and maybe Bryce, even if he's able to skip a year of college and come on in. But LeBron, given that he's been able to play at such a high elite level, I don't know if he will be satisfied with playing as a shell of himself. I don't see him playing much longer than maybe 2 years, 3 max, but 2 years, because his contributions have been clearly exposed. Anthony Davis is just not the answer. Even in the games that he's played well, he had 40 points in game 1, a loss in game 3. Say it again.
Can you say that louder for the hearing impaired?
AD is not the answer. Mr. Anthony Always Down Davis. And despite the fact that he's played well for the most part, it hasn't translated into wins for the team. I think that LA, it's done. And credit to Denver. I mean, Denver has been knocking on the door since the bubble. 2020, Jamal Murray has been a budding star. Nikola Jokic, we all know his story, 2-time MVP. And the Jamal Murray that's playing now looks like the bubble Murray. And the fact that they've had some injuries over the past couple of years, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray haven't been able, to play. They're hungry. And they recognize the fact that, hey, man, just because you have a good team does not always guarantee that you will be able to reach your full potential, because at any given moment, it all can be dashed for an injury. So you have to take opportunities of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity, and they're doing that. I mean, the Lakers were in all of those games, had a chance to win all of those games, even had a lead maybe somewhere in the fourth quarter, but could not finish because Denver Nuggets made shot after shot. The additions of Contavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown were masterful additions. And I think those were championship pieces that have helped them position themselves as the championship favorites. Miami, I'm very, very surprised that they were up, 2-0 against Boston. I didn't expect Boston to lose both games in Boston, but Boston has been mercurial for years. I thought them going to the championship last year, losing to Golden State in games that were winnable. I thought Boston should have won last year's championship, played sloppy down the stretch in a couple of games. And that was the difference in the series. I thought the hunger and pain of that being so close, knowing that you had a chance to win it, would be enough of an incentive for them to march on back. But they've laid an egg as well. Fourth quarter, Jason Tatum, being the starter of the team, has not made a field goal in game 1 or game 2 in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown had some costly turnovers in game 2. They haven't been able to close against Miami. And credit to Miami, Coach Spoelstra, Pat Riley, president, they have a winning, tough as nails, Rocky Balboa, never say die attitude. I appreciate that. But they ain't got no business. 1, being in the Eastern Conference Finals. Number 2, being up 2-0 against Boston after already having knocked out the number 1 seed. But that's why we played the game. They've played the best for the most minutes at the most crucial times. But I would still be very surprised if Miami won that series, and I don't give them any chance if they do emerge from this against a Denver Nuggets team that ain't hearing none of that. Credit to Jimmy Butler at the beginning of the play-in. They lost the opening game to Atlanta, went on to beat Chicago, and the rest, as we've seen, is history with them being in the Eastern Conference Finals up 2-0. Jimmy Butler told his team, hey, don't worry about anything. Y'all just follow my lead. And he's really, really been leading. So that really demonstrates, on the one hand, that despite little to no fanfare, you can still raise your team up, coming out of the ashes like the phoenix being resurrected. At the same time, I put as much onus on the Boston Celtics being tricked late in the game that I do with giving Miami credit for beating them. Comes down to the fourth quarter, it's a matter of making plays. And if you are the better team, just as Bill Belichick in football with the Patriots says to his players, do your job. If your job is to grab rebounds, grab rebounds. If your job is to hit shots, hit shots. If your job is to pump fake, dribble, draw, dish, do that. And so for Boston to fall apart in the fourth quarter is just unacceptable. Part of it has to do with the defense of Miami. Part of it has to do with the ineptitude of Boston. And I still don't think we've seen the best of Boston. And I think that they, it's not inconceivable that they can get 2 wins out of Miami to even this series at 2 apiece, going back to Boston for game 5, and we have a new series. Now, that being a possibility does not mean that it is inevitable. They still have to pull it off. And thus far, they haven't shown an ability to do it with their crash courses in fourth quarter failures in the opening 2 games. But we will see if the real Boston Celtics will show up or not. But all that said, this has been probably some of the most entertaining playoffs that I've seen over the last couple of years. And for the game of basketball, for the NBA, for the brand, having this unpredictable nature and these unusual suspects emerging as, being victorious thus far has been good for the league, and has really been a thumbs up to the competitive nature of what the NBA has become.
Hey, let me just say this. Agree with you. Anthony Davis is not AI. He is not Allen Iverson.
Amen.
Let me say this. So here's my take on what I'm seeing. Boston reminds me of the Bucks when they were playing against Toronto. They live and die by the 3. And when their 3 is not hitting, Boston looks very pedestrian, because even though they have the ability to drive, they don't. Tatum, I believe, settles for that jumper way too much when he has the ability to get to the rack a whole lot often than he does getting other players from the other team in foul trouble. But he doesn't take advantage of being a 6'8" cat who can get to the rim when he wants to.
Agreed.
But he settles for that 3 and so does Smart, so does all the other players around them.
Jaylen Brown as well.
Right. So when you're not hitting, you become the Milwaukee against Toronto. The reason why Milwaukee lost against Toronto and they have their championship is because they put the wall there for Giannis, and the guys who are supposed to be hitting threes couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And here's what that's what Boston is. Not to mention, Boston is beat up from that Philly series. They're beat up from that Philly series. Whereas Miami kind of went through there kind of easily. They went through Milwaukee easily.
And then the Knicks.
Yeah, and the Knicks easily. You know, so now they're looking at Boston going, y'all tired. And we know you tired. And because of it, we're going to wear you out.
But on that point right there, Pastor Skip, I think that's where probably, for me personally, is the biggest disappointment with Boston. Boston had been knocking on the door. Milwaukee had knocked them out of the playoffs. You know, over the last, 4 to 5 years, we've been really the death nail to Boston. Going back to maybe the Kyrie Irving days when he was still there, and when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown was kind of up-and-coming stars, they hadn't come into their full own and really recognized who they were as players. My understanding, just going back, being an old school guy, y'all remember those days back when Philadelphia had Moses Malone and Dr. J and Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney, and Boston made the move to get Dennis Johnson with Robert Parrish, Cedric Cornbread, Maxwell, Larry Bird, McHale, those teams. We're used to the fact that if you come in and you get knocked out, that is supposed to, excuse my French, piss you off. And you then say, I'm getting you next year because but for that 1 or 2 adjustments, I would have got you. So I'm used to teams when you get to a certain place and you fall short, you work on that area that was exposed the previous year. And you say, if you're going to get me this year, bruh, you ain't going to get me with that okie doke because I took care of that with this move. That's what is most frustrating about the Boston Celtics. Y'all been knocking on the door. Y'all been underachievers, and y'all got all the way to the finals last year and should have won. They were up 2-1 against Golden State and lost in 6.
Right.
I mean, y'all got the goods to make it happen. Y'all was supposed to be ticked off from that last year, supposed to have corrected your issues and said, come heck or high water, we're going back to the finals and we're going to win it again. And now y'all ain't even got to play against Golden State. Y'all got kind of an easy track here. Similar to Milwaukee, or Miami won in Milwaukee because we got their number. Hey, y'all playing against the 8th seed that is down their second best player, Tyler Hero, out with a broken hand. All y'all got to do is do y'all job. Y'all supposed to be handling Miami. Jimmy Buckets notwithstanding. He can have 35. He can have 40. He can drop another 56 like he did against the Bucks. Get yours. But the rest of you jokers, Caleb Martin, the other Strauss dude, the other, we don't even know their name. Y'all ain't going to get nothing against us. We were a finalist last year. We went in the finals last year. So, Jimmy Buck, we respect you. You a grown man. Go on and be grown. But with your grown manness, take this L and sit down somewhere. That's the biggest frustration with Boston. And you get to the fourth quarter, your leading scorer does not have a single field goal in game 1 or 2, and y'all playing at home with the championship berth on the line. That's unacceptable, man. That's just unacceptable. Well, and y'all went to the finals last year.
We know this. We know they ain't gonna fire their coach like everybody else who lose because they just gave him a 5-year contract. So Darvin Ham and Mazzulla, they safe. They both got 5-year contracts. But if Denver lose, their coach is fired.
Right. But here's my thing with even the coaching situation. You also got to remember last year they had Udoka. And Udoka had a certain kind of culture he was creating in the Boston Celtics. I don't know what this coach's culture is. He seems quiet. He seems cerebral. But Udoka seemed like the kind of cat like, y'all playing like some girls. You need to start manning up and playing real ball. And that doesn't seem like that's who this guy is.
But he didn't
Agreed.
play in the league. He didn't play in the league. Udoka played in the league.
Right. And so you
Udoka worked
with a
under
different
Popovich.
mindset.
He sharpened his teeth under Popovich.
Not another Pop, coach.
What? I mean, that's who he played for, and that's who he coached with, right?
Right.
Yeah, so he knew a thing or two about winning and championships and how to handle superstars.
Yeah, and so I think that could be some of what you're dealing with because, again, Missoula's still dealing with Udoka's success. You got his whole team, you got his whole offense, you got all of that, but what you didn't get was him.
Right.
And that a lot of times makes all the difference, you know. But switching over to the West, I think LeBron is at a point where he is completely just done with AD. Because he wouldn't got AD because he thought AD would extend his career. That I don't have to put in these 30, 40 minutes a game. I can sit in the game and really host the first half, maybe third.
Yeah. Pick my spots.
Right. Pick my spots, coach, and turn it on in the fourth. I don't think he planned on being the main player for 4 quarters. And you saw him being gassed. You see him being gassed when it should have never been. Listen, AD, you should be giving us, if I'm a Laker fan, you should be giving me at least 25, 15, 4, and 2. At least.
Every night.
Every night. You should be, are you a better athlete than the Joker? Then you should be at least giving us his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing is, first of all, AD has always had a problem with any center that's been athletic. He's always had a problem with cats who can move. The problem with the Joker for him is the Joker is Kevin McHale 2.0. He's Kevin McHale 2.0 in that Kevin McHale had so many moves, with 45 moves before he shot the ball. And that's what you're dealing with the Joker. He's giving 45 fakes, 35 up and unders, and 80 don't know what to do with him. Because he's like, he ain't faster than me. He ain't necessarily stronger than me, but he gives me buckets. That has to be mentally, and he's giving it to me easily. He's been giving me 20 and 15 at the half.
Yeah. No, on that, I agree. I mean, the Joker and Jamal Murray have been, men amongst boys versus the Lakers defense. That's been obvious. Yeah. But I think that I will give. Oh, go ahead.
Either what he's been doing, Porter has been an absolute assassin. How tall is he? 6'9"?
He's 6'10".
6'10".
6'10" with a jumper like that?
Yeah. I mean, but we knew that coming in. Michael Porter Jr. coming out of high school was known as this big assassin. He just had back problems. He's just been injured most of his career, so the rest of the nation has not seen it. So we're not surprised by what he's been able to do. He was a weapon, which is why they got him and paid him all that money, despite him having a spotty career as far as games played due to injury. Now, as far as AD defending Joker, we ain't going to necessarily hold it against him. Ain't nobody been able to stop Joker. He's a 2-time MVP. He might be slow, but he has a basketball IQ. He's savvy. He's Larry Bird, Luka Doncic wrapped up in one with a little bit of Pete Maravich. So we will forgive AD for being cooked on the defensive end by that dude because he is a phenom. The problem is you want to get your lick back on the other end. AD, you've shown us flashes when y'all won in the bubble against this same Denver team. Y'all was the one that put Denver out of the playoffs to be able to get to the finals. So what we want you to be able to do is cook that Joker back Make him barbecue chicken, as Shaq would say, like he's made you. And that's where the problem has been. It's been the inconsistency there. People can say all they want to about LeBron not having killer instinct, but if y'all ain't going to talk about Anthony Davis not having no killer in him, shut up talking about LeBron. LeBron is an old man playing a young man's game, and he's still giving you 25 to 30, 10 to 12 assists, and 8 to 10 rebounds every game, having to carry it. Will Wade, maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, told us here on this broadcast that, hey, for LA to be successful, Anthony Davis has to be the best player on that team. And I think we will all agree in unison that Anthony Davis ain't been the best player on LA since he's been there, which has been very sucky and a big disappointment, to your point, Patrick Skip, for LeBron. They were able to get that one chip, and LeBron was saying, I'm going to bring a championship to LA. So he lived up to his promise, but I'm sure he thought and expected that he'd be able to get at least 2 or more than 1. So technically he did his job. Great. Ain't got to hang your head. But I'm sure in his heart of hearts, he's a little disappointed and disillusioned with what AD has not been able to do, which is relieve me, Joker, from having to be daddy on this team, knowing that I'm granddaddy age. Give me some freaking help. You got the cat Austin Reeves, who has been playing out of his mind. But for him stepping up, doing his thing, the Lakers probably wouldn't even be in the Western Conference Finals, wouldn't have been able to get out of the first round. And it's unfortunate because we thought the 1-2 punch of LeBron being supportive to AD would be enough to get them over the hump and get a couple of chips and make them a perennial, for real threat in the West every year. What we're seeing now, 4 years or so in, that ain't the case. It was a figment of our imagination, and it's disappointing to see. And LA's season might be RIP'd in just a couple days.
Well, the other thing too, when you look at centers and big mans in the West, AD really don't got no competition. He really don't. It's
right.
Just the Joker and him. It ain't nobody else.
Right.
Facts.
So he should be dominating day in and day out. You name a team, no one has a center as good or as big or athletic or strong as AD. No. And that hasn't been a determining factor on the Lakers' record and their performance. So the only thing I can say about Anthony Davis is probably the same thing two things, same thing everybody say. Number one, it's a huge disappointment. And number two, we don't know what we're going to get with AD.
Facts.
Amen.
Facts. So, I'm going to get him a t-shirt with his name on it that's going to say Diet Coke, not the real thing.
Shots fired. Yeah, man.
Another great show. Meet us back here every Tuesday night from 7 to 7:30 for the #1 faith-based sports talk show in the entire world, Into His Courts. Until next week, have an amazing week. Peace.